my Aprilia SXV 550. Finally got her back on the road here. God, I love supermotos, especially this bike. Oh, there's nothing like the power on this. Oh man, just so flickable. These Aprilias, man, they have so much power. This thing's probably kicking out 80, 85 horse. I think that's at the wheel too. Yeah, because I think one guy, I know the highest I've ever seen is 90 at the crank. Like, you're talking 275 pounds or less, especially if you take a whole bunch of crap off of it, de-restrict it and all this. Man, this thing is power. Just got this out of storage for the winter. Back at it again in spring. Didn't miss a beat, man. I had to charge the battery because I actually left it uncharged, which was a bad idea, but I mean, a battery is easy to replace. It's basically minimal to no charge over winter. You basically treat this thing like it's carbureted. You got to pull this button down there, and that's essentially like a choke, basically like holding the throttle open halfway. There used to be a yellow button around here that would essentially do that. It's like it had a choke symbol on it too, and it locked the throttle like halfway open, and then you'd be able to start it. Yeah, there's really nothing wrong with this bike. Look, it's got 34,440 kilometers. Now that's about, I don't know, 28,000 miles, somewhere around there, give or take. And that's pretty good. Like, that's pretty good for one of these bikes. I haven't seen them higher than this, I don't think. I think there was one maybe at 35. I don't know, I think that might have been miles too. So that would have been 40 or 44,000 kilometers. So that's pretty good. Like, there, this bike, it can be extremely reliable in the right hands once it's set up correctly. Now, of course, I had this rebuilt by the master himself. I've had, like I say, I've had no issues, but when I got the bike, there was coolant in the gearbox oil. But that was the fault of whoever rebuilt it the last time. So I didn't need a whole new engine, but I needed a whole new transmission and several other bits too. Maybe from the factory, there's a few things that Aprilia could have done better to make these bikes more reliable from the factory and not require a rebuild basically as soon as you get it. But like I say, once you get it set up, these can be, now, yeah, maybe it's not going to be as reliable as a Honda CRF or something. You know what? It'll challenge any other Italian bike or even European bike, that's for sure. I've seen more KTMs blow up than I've seen Aprilias blow up in terms of throwing a rod or something. Like, I sold a KTM to my buddy, which is like the last thing you should do, mind you, and I learned I learned hard. Literally like 2 or 3 rides later, it throws a rod through the case, and it's just, oh, it was so sad. I was so ashamed. And I mean, there's nothing that I could do. I literally had the bike like 2 weeks. Decided, well, you know, it's not quite for me. I could use the money instead, so that's what I did. But like I say, I've seen more KTMs blow up. Mind you, these bikes are extremely rare. So you're looking, I did the math. I talked to a couple guys in the community, and what I could gather from going off of the number of the engine, adding those up, minus, they're subtracting about 4,000 because they got to assume they start at 1,000. You're looking at around 14 or 15,000 bikes, and that's total for all the RXV, SXV, and MXVs. Now, like I say, they only made, it's more SXVs 550s than anything else, which shows you something. It shows you that people who are interested in these bikes, obviously the biggest seller for these bikes was the supermoto class, because a guy called Van den Bosch, I think that was his last name, I think his first name was Thierry Van den Bosch, I don't know, I think he might have been Austrian or something, I can't remember, but he had in the, I think it was the 07, 08, and 09, he won the Supermoto Championships. Now, look, I don't follow racing exactly like I should, probably, but the first two times he won, and I don't know if, I think it might have been the 450, but he won on the Aprilia lineup, okay? First two races, and the third one, he won on something else. I think it might have been a KTM or a Beta or something. But that guy was fucking, like, he fucking won 3 straight. And I don't know if they were World Championships or European or something like that. Anyway, it was a very big deal, especially for Aprilia, because the 2 out of 3 races they had him on their bike. So obviously that sold quite a few bikes, and you're somebody like me, you want a bike for the road. The 550 is always going to be a better option. It's just got more power. To this day, like I say, the 550 has sold more than any of its other class of Aprilias. There was like literally the majority of that 14 or 15,000. I think it's probably somewhere in the range of 8,500. I've seen almost 8,000 in terms of engine numbers, so I assume there's a couple more after that. I don't know, out there somewhere. They made them all the way from 2006 to 2013, but only imported them into the North American market for 2007 to 2011. So like I say, they did not make many of them, and it really showed. If you look at the engine numbers going by year, the vast majority of sales were from 2007 and 2008, and there might have been 1,000 bikes after 2008, but like talking 7,000 bikes in the first 2 years, and then literally 1,000 after that, because everybody started to find out that from the factory they came with the orange case sealant. That completely, I forget exactly, it would leak oil, or sorry, it would leak coolant into the engine oil through the head gasket or something to that effect around there, and it would of course blow the engine because the engine had no lubrication. So once everybody figured that out, they were like, no, none of this, nope, get it away from me. So that was very unfortunate. And of course, the way Aprilia, being Italian, an Italian motorcycle manufacturer, especially of sporty motorcycles, they do not respond well. They took a few engines, they resealed them, and then I don't know. I mean, you can still find, if you're savvy, you can still find bikes out there today that have not been resealed, that have orange case sealant as opposed to black, which is the good kind. And no, it's not yellow bond. You can still find those bikes out there today with their plastic oil filter covers, and yeah, like, don't fucking ride those unless you get those rebuilt. I mean, personally, if I had one of those, and I'm actually looking at one right now, if I had one of those, I would literally probably just put it in my living room under the mantle as a ornament piece, like a topic of discussion, and that would be probably about it. But like I say, they I don't know exactly how many RXVs they made. I'd have to check the numbers again, but they probably, in terms of MXVs, now this, if you're looking at these bikes and you've come across, honestly, I didn't even know they made these bikes until literally like a year and a half after owning this, because they only made 250 of those, and like worldwide, like literally 9 of them sold in Canada and like 12 in the United States. But they came out in 2009. That's the problem. That's when all the issues started to come up to surface. So all those problems that Aprilia had, like they couldn't even give these bikes away. Like up until probably even 2016 or so, there was probably a few dealerships that still had bikes sitting around, or maybe they sent them. I don't even know how it works, but they might have sent them back to Aprilia. I know you could still I think you could still like order them from Aprilia in 2014. There's just leftover bikes, Nobody bought them. And unfortunately, that ended Aprilia's off-road career. They still have like the SX and RX 125s, the lower CC ones, and those, they don't import those to North America because most of them are, well, some of them are two-strokes. They have four-strokes as well. I mean, if I had one of those would be pretty cool, but I don't, and so I can't tell you about them. But they pretty much, those bikes are mostly like starter bikes. Those are what you get in the European countries like Britain, that are restricted on CCs if you have a certain level of license. Until you get your full license, then you can get one of these wonderful beasts. But they mostly ended it, well, for of course the reasons that I've explained to you. And number two, they wanted to focus their engineering and their manufacturing on the RSV4 line and win at Pikes Peak. And they won at Pikes Peak. I believe they did win at Pikes Peak. And that was what set them back in the game as far as selling motorcycles. They, like I say, they really made it late to the game in the fix department, and that killed these bikes. So we had 91 and 84. So what's that? 8. All right, 75, dude. That's not too bad of a difference. So I'll try to keep her on the gauge to 100 or 110. Love this bike so much. $34,500 clicks, dude. That's a pretty good bike right there.